You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor, and I am the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Thank you for joining us today, and to let you know, if you don't already, we're broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, located right here in downtown Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County. Conroe is the fastest growing small city in America, according to the Census Bureau, 2 of the last 3 years. So you know we're doing a lot of business here. So it's a great place to bring this show to you from. My first question of the day: how long has it been since you fill in the blank? You know, with the recent pandemic, which to some extent we're still involved, a lot of things got put off. And I would suggest to you, particularly in your business, if there's some things that you have put off in your business, depending on where you are in the world, perhaps now is the time for you to make that list of things that might have gotten forgotten. You know, when you're locked up, so to speak, for so long, and business slows down in most cases or stops in some cases, then important business issues, day to day, month to month, year to year, get put on the back burner, and unfortunately we forget. So I encourage you, try to remember what needs to be done. If that machine in the back needs to be serviced, don't forget about it. Take care of things before they turn around and bite you, because this year we're out and running, so be there on the finish line. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world now come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their businesses, and be part of a general conversation that we hope can make a real difference in your business today. And remember, the show is being broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube. Just go on, look for the Weekly Business Hour page, click, and you can watch as well as listen to today's program live. Reminder, email. I always try to remind people, even when I'm out and about, if you've got a comment about the show, you've got a question for myself or our guest, or just have a question about your own business, because that's what I do and our guest today does, is we advise and consult, mentor small businesses. Please send me an email. If it's for our guest, I'll make sure I forward it to him. Email address is real easy. It's onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. Well, let's get this show on the road, as the man once said. Our guest in the studio today is Roger Goertz. Roger's a former business owner, community leader, and now a business advisor consultant. Roger, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rick, thank you very much. And I want to thank you for inviting me to the show.
Well, when you've got the experience you have, we got to get you on the air, right? So you can share that with our listeners.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to it.
Well, you've got a wonderful business story, and I want to really jump right into it so people get a sense of where you came from and what you've done with what you had, because it is an encouraging business story that I think that people can benefit perhaps in their own businesses even today. Well, let's start off, a little background. Years you were working in the corporate world, if I recall the story correctly, working for someone else, and then you decided to go out on your own. What did you learn personally that you could take with you to be your own business owner?
Well, that's a great question, because it took me several years to decide to own my own business. Throughout my career, I've always been told by individuals that have worked with me, whether they're older adults or young high school students, they always said you're very good at what you do in terms of teaching. That's actually in one of the fields in high school when I took the test. What am I going to be when I grow up? Teaching was one of the top, which I thought was kind of interesting. But there was a gentleman in particular. He was the very first franchise owner that I trained in the food business. And he was 20 years my senior, and I'm 20 years old. He comes walking in the store where he's going to get his training, and he asked where the training manager is, and I said, well, I'm the training manager. My name is Roger. He said, no, you're a kid. Well, long story short, he spent 3 weeks with me in the store, and at the end of the second week, he sat down with me and told me, he said, I don't know where you've been, what you've been doing, but you're absolutely amazing in terms of teaching business and business skills. We formed a friendship and stayed friends for years and years. He owned a couple of restaurants in Springfield, Missouri. And up until about 20 years ago when he passed, we still were in contact with each other. So throughout my career, I was always being asked, why don't you own your own business? You're good at what you do, good at what you teach, and your staff is very good. And I always related it to this. My dad, who died when I was 7 years old, he failed in a business, and he was only 34 when he passed. And I kept thinking, maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So if he failed, would I fail? So through encouragement along the years that I was in business and working in franchise systems and running companies and having training programs, it just, I don't know, I woke up one morning, I was going into work, of course, and I told my wife, who is since deceased, that I'm going to go in and I'm going to resign, and I'm going to give him 6-month notice. And she looked at me and she said, you're kidding me. All these years, all these people have been telling you to own your own business. Why now all of a sudden? I said, I don't know. I think it's time. So I went in, I resigned, gave him my 6-month notice. They let me serve my 6 months. And in that process, I started looking at concepts that I wanted to own, businesses I wanted to own. And I selected one and bought it.
So the rest is history, so to speak. One thing to back up a little bit in your conversation, it sounds like you had a lot of encouragers, maybe mentors along the way that
yes.
helped guide you. Is that a fair statement?
That's true. You know, like I said, my father passed away when I was 7 years old. My grandfather, who lived in the same town, and the town's only 1,200 people, very small, but he was a German, and he was a cattle rancher and a wheat farmer. But he lived in town, and so he would take me in the summer months and take me out on the farm, and he would put me on tractors. He would teach me certain work ethics. And so I always had a strong work ethic because of him, and my mother, quite honestly. So when I started in business, the first offer that I had when I was going to college, I was completing my second year, and I was offered a position in this food franchise in Dallas, Texas. And at the time, I was going to a junior college up in Hutchinson, Kansas. But he offered me a manager trainee position at a decent salary, a lot more I was making working for Cessna hydraulic division. So I moved to Dallas, and that's where my career started. So I would say my grandfather was my first mentor. I had another one when I first started in business, the training manager that trained me. He was a mentor, but I have to say he was a mentor that could teach you the right way, but then also show you the wrong way. And so I found out that you could learn the right way, but you could observe people and what they did wrong or that it didn't work well. So I knew not to make that same mistake. So yes, I had a lot of good mentors throughout my career. And I know this will sound strange. I have some that have worked with me or for me, people would say, that actually were my mentors as well, because they taught me that if I train a certain way, that individual blossoms. And so that gave me a training mechanism in training and teaching employees. So I could go on and on about the mentors because I've had so many. And I will mention one in particular. This gentleman's name was Jeff Voss. He was a founder of a company, and he offered me my first official president's CEO position with his company, and I'd only worked for him for 4 months. So he told me, a couple of things, one of which he said that I'm going to leave. As soon as I announce that you're the president and CEO, I'm going to leave for 6 weeks. You don't know where I'm going. You don't know how to get in touch with me. So actually, he left me on my own, and I consider that a pretty strong mentor because the water was deep at times. I'll put it that way.
That's a wonderful story about the sink and swim idea. Okay, your first business. I mean, what was the first business you owned as you made that eventful decision?
Well, it was a plumbing franchise, and I am not a plumber. The last thing you would ever want me to do is touch anything plumbing in your house. I never touched them in mine. But when I started looking at different concepts, and I looked at the food industry, I looked at retail a little bit, and then I looked at service companies. And one of the things that intrigued me about plumbing is they typically have not a really great reputation. And I have been in Houston before. I was living in Waco at the time, and I was president of one of the franchise companies at the Dwyer Group. And there was a plumbing franchise, Mr. Reuter was the name, and it was in the Woodlands. And he serviced part of Harris County and a little bit of Montgomery, but it wasn't a large company. They did about $400,000 a year. He was an old gentleman. I call him an old crotchety plumber. He wanted to sell, and I thought I could make a difference in that industry. And I think I thought I could make a difference in that particular company. And I wanted to make it into something that would bright, shiny, and show basically the industry as well as the customers. It's just not an old low pants in the back type thing. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but most people have that visual with plumbers. Ours was quite professional, and I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot.
That's interesting because I had on multiple occasions a chance to visit your business, to use your business for service personally. What impressed me most as a business person was the program and the process that you developed as a teacher of training new plumbers, new people to work in your business. You went outside the box. You didn't try to hire a plumber. You hired somebody in at a fair wage and put them through a program, a process of teaching.
Yes.
So there that I personally saw that, and I didn't know at the time, your skill as a teacher come to fruition. How important was that to your business and its success?
Oh my gosh, it was. I can't even tell you how important it was. And I'm going to have to say this. Not only was it important financially, because it paid very well when I built the company, but I didn't build it myself. I built it with a team of employees that wanted to excel in their career, because a lot of them made a career decision to be a so-called plumber, and I was teaching them to be a technician. And to me, there is a difference. And I would use a lot of training skills that I had developed over the years or had been introduced to, and I kind of modified to fit my style. And I started just basically building up not only the morale in those that I hired or we hired, but I gave them a visual of what they could be, not what they are. And if those that bought into it, they were very successful. And those that couldn't buy into it, I learned along the way what to look for in the hiring process. But it was wonderful. I had a great, awesome team. And I think if they were here, they would tell you that their life, not only their family life, but their life within themselves changed drastically when they came to work for the company that I owned.
Yeah, folks, unless you'd experienced it, it was an amazing thing for me at least, and I think a lot of other local business people that had a chance to see and talk about your business through local chamber events and whatnot, to see how you trained a workforce, which so many companies just don't train people. I'm a small businesses, but even larger businesses they kind of throw people into sink or swim like you had in your one position.
Right.
And I think it's one of the things that perhaps the most valuable thing or issue that a company misses is the ability to bring people in, train them, because people, particularly in your service business, are your biggest asset. Why wouldn't you spend some time training them, even if they're already skilled at the job you have, but training them to do a better job and to represent your company and the culture of your company? It just makes a lot of sense. You're a winner on that issue, I'll tell you, and a lot of others, but that's a wonderful approach that you took.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a pleasure doing it, I'll put it that way.
Well, I know for a fact you taught other business people to pay attention to that issue. Probably not as well as you did, but you taught them by example. Well, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we're at the point of our first break today. We're going to take a short commercial break as it is, and when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation with Roger Goertz, talk a little bit about the franchise model that he bought into, but also move and talk about his current business, Huddle Up. It's a very interesting concept of mentoring, advising, consulting with small businesses. So I hope you'll stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
What is homelessness? Have you seen parents struggle to find a job without having transportation or childcare? What about the children sleeping in cars with nothing to eat? Families shouldn't have to struggle to survive, and children should not be homeless. Family Promise of Montgomery County serves the needs of homeless families and their children. Learn about ways you can help and learn about partnership opportunities at www.familypromiseofmc.org or call our day center at 936-441-8778.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. And we're having a really interesting conversation, I think, today with Roger Goertz. We've spoken to Roger about his experience in the corporate world and buying and owning his first business, which is a very interesting business, as I had firsthand knowledge and saw Roger and his business in action. Roger, one of the things that I always try to cover with a business owner is the business model they operate in. Mm-hmm. You chose the franchise model to go into your first business. You had experience in the corporate world, if you will, with franchising. Why did you choose the franchise model versus starting something from scratch?
Well, the bottom line is, Rick, that I felt that my vision was at some point in time, and when I hit a certain goal, I was going to sell. And I felt that it was easier to sell a franchise than it is an independent business, because most people that are looking at getting into business, one of the things they look at is franchising. And from what I've learned by working in a franchise system with all the different companies I've been involved with, is the new business owner going into the franchise system, they have that support of the franchisor corporate. So that's kind of like their safety net, if you would. And then as a franchise, it's, I think, a lot more appealing to potential buyers, because once you sell and you leave the business, then they still have the ongoing support and backup from the corporate headquarters.
Yeah, it definitely can, with a good franchise, increase
Correct.
your chances for success and reduce those risks of failure.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Well, let me ask you, you have had years and years of experience both in the corporate and as a business owner. As a business owner, what did you find was your biggest challenge year in and year out to owning that business?
Well, I think it goes back to any business, I believe. The biggest challenge is finding the right people to be a part of your team. And that was one of the major concerns of mine was, how was I going to attract the individuals that I felt had the character, had the morals, had the desire to improve their life, improve their family life, and to be part of a company that really was a family away from family. And that at first was a little more challenging because of the industry that I had bought into. I think the second challenge had to do with the change in marketing. I know when I first purchased my franchise company, 2003, you literally could put a large ad in a yellow page or what they call a double truck, and your phone would start ringing off the wall. Well, that changed gradually over time, and social media became more of a driver, more of an influencer. And today, yellow pages are not quite the driver, not nearly like it was back in 2003, even though you still have to have presence there because there is a certain age group that still use yellow pages, ironically. So that change was something that I had to learn as I was a business owner, because that really wasn't available and wasn't really that big of a challenge when I was an executive working for franchise companies.
Right. Let me ask you a quick question, because I really want to get to Huddle Up here shortly and talk about your experiences there. But when you say, of course, like any business person, or at least business owners should, decide what they're looking for in general with an employee, as well as specifics, as well as skills. But what did you find to be the most successful, let's say, media or way to bring in the right employee? I mean, as far as advertising to get them to come in and talk to you, what worked for you in attracting those employees?
Well, this is going to be probably a little bit off the wall, but I will tell you the largest method to attract good people were my employees. Once they experienced the company that I was working to create and those that were with me at the time, once they saw that, and once they experienced it, they went, oh my gosh, I didn't know this type of a business environment exists. And so when they would run into other plumbers and other companies or other employees like a CSR, a dispatcher, or maybe an accounting clerk, they said, God, you need to go talk to this guy named Roger Goertz. He owns this company called Mr. Rooter, and it's a great place. So they actually became the voice of recruiting for me. And because I tried other methods, I tried the green sheet and I tried Craigslist, but you just get what I call door knockers. So that's how I did it.
Well, it's not as unusual as you think. My experience, and I think there have been a number of studies, the referral employee, the referral candidate, hands down, is potentially will be your best candidate. You get your best, because I don't want to refer somebody, right, unless I think they're somewhat, if not completely, fit for the job. So I applaud. I mean, you create that work environment, and it brings to you the best people. That's my experience, and something I try to work with my clients to do, to see the value of that. Well, let's move along a little bit. I mean, Huddle Up.
Okay.
That's a business brand you have. Tell us about what Huddle Up is all about, please.
Well, when I sold my business, it was a major change for me because I had worked all my life since I was 9 years old, in the harvest fields all the way up through high school, college, and then, of course, my career taking off in 1968 with a fast food franchise. And I woke up the morning, actually, it's kind of an interesting story. One of the agreements I had with the gentleman who bought my business was I would be available for him for 2 months. I'd come in every day. And it was the morning of the second week on a Monday. He asked me if I could step into his office, which used to be mine. And he made the comment, he said, I don't want you to be upset, but I don't need you to come here anymore. And I said, wow. And he said, no, do you realize your employees run this company? And I said, well, of course. I trained them to do that, So I then found myself at home. And I thought, what am I going to do, And then I decided I wanted to pay it forward. And I've had people do that for me in my career and in my life. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I started thinking about names and started to think about what I wanted to do. And, I just woke up one morning. It's one of these weird things. And I said, I know what I'm going to call it. And I told Natalie, my wife, I said, I'm going to call it Huddle Up. She said, where'd you come up with that name? And I said, well, in junior high and high school, I was anointed the quarterback, and it's because I could throw a pass. And at the time, the offense that was being ran by the coach was literally a running plays. We had like 5 running plays, and that was it. And so I went to him, and I said, well, look, can I throw some passes? And he said, well, we don't run that offense. I said, well, let's try it in practice. And we did, and he went, oh, my gosh. Because all the teams we played against, they had a defense for running, not passing. So in my quarterback days, and then having the right people in the right positions, I would call, come on, guys, let's huddle up. Let's huddle up. Let's call the right play. In business, there's an awful lot of huddling up. You're in your business, you huddle up with your employees, you have your team meetings, you have your motivational meetings. So that's really how I came up with the name Huddle Up.
Well, that's a very, very creative name, in my opinion, for the kind of work we do. Talk about what you specifically are seeking to do for your clients when you huddle up with them, if you will.
Well, it's so far, there's been 5 I've worked with, and it's all been varying. It's really crazy because I always thought maybe it might be 2 or 3 different things, and that was it. But I've done marketing analysis and studies with them. I've done demographic studies with this one in particular. He looked at buying existing business. There were 8 locations. So, the market analysis, from how you're going to advertise this business, who your competition is, how you price your product and your services, that varied. Another situation was a gentleman that I could only work just a little bit with, and it had to do with his business and where he wanted to go. And I asked him, do you have intentions of selling it at some point in time? And he said yes. So we got to looking at, when do you want to sell? What's your goal? What's your strategy? So then there's also been a recruiting and interviewing, but this is really strange. I don't like to interview. I like to have a conversation. And I think there's a big difference between interviewing an applicant versus just having a conversation, because you can learn so much more in having a conversation than you can in an interview.
Well, there's no doubt about it. That's always when I do some of that, or have done some of that for my clients. In fact, I almost became an extension in HR as far as the hiring process part, and did a lot of interviewing because they didn't have staff to do that. So, and I've always enjoyed the interview as well as the conversation, which conversation will depend on what level of job was in the process.
Correct.
We would have a conversation away from the office and particularly bring in the spouse. That's another thing that I
Yes.
used as a testing tool.
Yes.
Every small owner business owner either has a spouse or a child or a grown-up child or a mother or father, whoever. They've got family who they understand their perspective and they can use them as an extension. Well, that's very interesting. Now, what is your main goal with the business now? Are you trying to grow, or what is it that you seek to do with Huddle Up?
Well, what I seek to do, again, I'm going back to the phrase, pay it forward. I want to take my experience and at whatever level, whatever section of business is needed, and go to business owners who maybe want to improve their business. They want to grow it. They want to get to a point where they can sell it. Maybe a combination of all the above. It's not that I know everything. I don't think any human being knows everything, but there's so much that I know about business. I just want to share it. Yeah. I have a personal mantra, and I shared that with you in some of my notes to you, and it's that whatever I achieve today, I will exceed it tomorrow, and I am committed to exceed it tomorrow. So my philosophy with a business owner is whatever we achieve today, we will exceed it tomorrow. And so that's what drives me. That's what drives my passion, to help these business owners to be successful, because I had a lot of people help me be successful, and I want to pay it forward.
Well, it's a wonderful mission, and I congratulate you for it. If folks want to reach out and get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, this kind of goes back and forth with my wife, because I'm open for anybody, but I have an email that's my personal email, and I answer it. It's my name, Roger Goertz, so that's ROGERGOERTZ @gmail.com. And I've also made my cell phone available, and that's 281-705-4994. So.
Well, I agree with you. Give out the phone, give out the email. Make it easy for folks who want to talk to you, reach you. So,
Yes.
And everybody has their own mode of communication today
Correct.
that they favor. Roger, I can't thank you enough. I'm glad we connected. I'm glad things settled down with your family and everyone
Yes.
continues to heal. Ladies and gentlemen, as we go into the break, I want to mention a couple things to you. First of all, a reminder, our podcast video cast of today's show will be posted on Wednesday of this week at our website is one place. That's onebestconsult.com, onebestconsult.com. You can re-listen to a part of the program, all the program, or better yet, share the program with other business people who you think might benefit from it. What's coming up in the second half of the show? First of all, I'm going to do a quick review and comment about some of the things Roger taught us today. And then I'm going to go to the mailbox. One of our listeners sent in a request that they were looking to outsource their accounting and asked what should they be aware of as they take what could be a significant step in the growth of their business, outsourcing. It's got its own set of guidelines and rules you need to be aware of. And last but not least, One Best Consult tip of the week. When is it the right time to exit your business? A little different take on that. You know, we've been doing a soup to nuts series lately about how to properly exit your business, how to get the most. We've had some wonderful guests that focused on it, got more to come. So I'm going to kind of touch on a little different approach. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out ourlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Lone Star Boxer Rescue is a nonprofit organization serving Montgomery County and surrounding areas. dedicated to the health and well-being of the boxer breed. Lone Star Boxer Rescue is run and managed 100% by volunteers since 1999. Our main objective is to rescue, rehabilitate, and rehome boxers that come to us from many sources, including local animal shelters, owner surrenders, and strays. For more information about Lone Star Boxer Rescue, visit our website at lsbr.org.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
An estimated 1 in 10 births will result in a neonatal intensive care stay, also known as the NICU. Overnight, a family can find themselves and their newborn baby in a critical situation. The Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for a summer internship, Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to learn the radio and TV business. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776. Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to today's Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler, your host. We just finished a conversation with Mr. Roger Goertz. He's a local former business owner. He's a community leader, and now he is helping other businesses be more successful through his Huddle Up organization. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about engaging a mentor, an advisor, a business consultant, put what label you want on it, Roger's one of the ones I would recommend you talk to. He's got just an unbelievable amount of experience, as he and I talked about, from a lot of different perspectives. And that kind of leads me into a couple points I want to make about our conversation. First, Roger emphasized throughout our conversation at different times the importance of encouragement, the importance of having mentors. And we even talked specifically about it, how mentors, when he was growing up as a child, grandfather in his case, helped him form the basis to build the foundation for what he later became in business, taught him about business, taught him about work. These are important topics, and I assume most of you are beyond that point, but the fact is he was an encourager, that mentors and people working with you and you looking for people to mentor you is an important part of being successful in business. And the second thing I think he mentioned, or really who he is, Roger's had a lot of background experience in the corporate world, as well as being a business owner, but there's one thread that comes through loud and clear if you look at it. He worked in a franchise system for a number of years and became the CEO at one point of the organization. So he got to see franchising from the inside, and he turned around and decided that was the best model for him to own a business. That says a lot about franchising and the way it can work for others. And in his case, he mentioned to us, why did I take the franchising role? Well, I think the untold story is he was very familiar of its strengths and weaknesses. But what he said, I felt the business would be worth more when it came time to exit and sell according to my exit strategy. So that's an interesting take, one that I can't disagree with in many cases, depending on the industry and business you're in. So a couple quick takeaways from our conversation with Roger Goertz. I had a mailbag item I want to touch on a little bit. It was from Bill, sent an email in, said he's considering outsourcing his accounting, bookkeeping, accounting, which he already outsourced to a CPA to do his tax return. But the day-to-day bookkeeping, including invoicing and including handling the deposits and receivables, that's a huge step to take. But in the case of many small businesses who don't want to hire someone who is skilled, trained, and fits the bill as a full-time employee, which, by the way, there are a lot of options out there in this area for part-time people who have been in the industry for a long time, want to slow down. These people are out there, and I've seen many small businesses when they're starting to grow in the very beginning, and as they grow to a certain point, use a part-time bookkeeper accountant. But in this case, he's looked at outsourcing. And depending on where your market is, there are going to be a number of choices. That's one of the things. But I think three things that you just have to do. First, you need to write down what your goals and objectives are in outsourcing, in this case, your bookkeeping, accounting. What is it that you want out of this? Are you trying to save money? Are you trying to save the idea that you got to bring another employee in or keep an employee who's not busy all the time? In other words, you don't have enough work. What is really motivating you to make that move? And I think you got to write it down on a piece of paper or type it on a typewriter or computer or whatnot and look at it, if you will, in black and white. Because the main thing is you want to manage your expectations. If you've never really outsourced, except for things like your trash pickup and things like that, outsourcing is a whole new set of challenges. I'm not saying it's bad or it's good. It has its positive points. And in many cases, depending on what you outsource, it can be a win-win. If temporary, maybe long-term. But be sure you know what your expectations are so that when you make the step and then things don't go like you thought they should or would, then you're not disappointed. Or if you are disappointed, you made a bad choice. Make sure you can clearly understand the ramifications of the choice you made in outsourcing. Number two, how does your accounting impact your business operations? And what I'm getting at here is ask yourself questions. You invoice daily. Do you make a deposit daily? Do last month's financials figure into your decision-making this month? Do you make changes? In other words, you need that information. It needs to be accurate, and it needs to come to you on a timely basis, 5th of the month, 8th of the month, maybe even the 10th of the month. But then you can take it and use it in the balance of the month and further to make changes, make adjustments, make sure your business is doing what you want it to do. How important is that to you? Of course, when you go and look at who's available to do outsourcing, what can they realistically turn around? What will they do for you in the area of providing you timely information and reports? And three, and this may sound a little funny, but are there individuals or firms in your locale that can meet those expectations, that can handle the accounting that you have? You know, some businesses, believe it or not, don't have a lot of accounting to do. Online businesses, sometimes a lot of the work is done online. Some people have trained themselves to use QuickBooks and find it quite easy depending on the type of business, the size of the business. So there's no need for them to outsource. But if you decide to do it, you've asked and consider the first 2 points I made, then are there firms in your locale that are reachable? Some people go long distance, and it works. It can work for you if they meet your expectation, the mindset, and the needs of your business. So make sure that you have people available before you start down this road to go into outsourcing. Just don't make a choice because they're the only game in town. We're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about my one best consult tip of the week, when it is the right time to exit your business. The right time to exit your business is something I think everyone should keep in the back of their mind, regardless of where they are on the timeline of exiting their business. And don't forget, this program will be available on Wednesday as a videocast podcast. You can find it here on the radio station website at irlonestar.com. Just click on the Weekly Business Hour tab under shows, and you will find today's show published there, available for listening at your pleasure. So stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Statistics show that 1 out of every 6 Texans struggles with food insecurity and hunger. And many people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables every day. The Better Living for Texans program is here to help you learn how to make healthy menu choices, save money at the grocery store, prepare quick and delicious meals, get more good nutrition in your day, and get more physical activity. Classes are fun, friendly, interactive, and free, and taught in English and Spanish. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with the Lone Star Community Radio.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dan Simon, Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org, that's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
Vell Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit, began in 2014 with a mission to strengthen the future of veterans through leadership and entrepreneurship training. We've invested over 1,400 hours of training in our veterans while connecting them with community entrepreneurs and leaders. Our mission is to continue investing in our veterans who have given so much for our country. Please join us in our mission by visiting vellinstitute.org. That's VELinstitute.org.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler, your host, and we've gotten through a lot of show today. Interview with Roger Goertz. I hope if you missed it, you'll use the opportunity on Wednesday when we put the show out as a video or a podcast, that you will check into social media, check our Facebook page at the Weekly Business Hour, and you'll have it posted there along with many, many other places. And I hope you will listen to that interview because I think there's a lot to take away. Also, a reminder, if you're a business owner here in the Montgomery County area or beyond, you can be a sponsor of our program. It's relatively inexpensive. Just make a donation that I can talk to you about. We're a nonprofit radio station, Lone Star Community Radio. So I encourage you, reach out to me. Just send me an email here at the station, Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Rick at irlonestar.com, and I'll provide you with some basic, simple information that tells how you can sponsor this program and have the Weekly Business Hour as part of your image in your business dealings. Well, one best consult tip of the week. I titled it, "When is it the right time to exit your business?" As I mentioned earlier, we're in a soup to nuts series that's spreading now over 3 months on and off, talking about business exit, selling or transferring your business to someone else. Roger touched on that today about what he experienced, some of the things that he went through in selling his business. And it's different for everyone. But reality, statistically, 80% of the small businesses just close up. They don't transfer or sell the business. And that may not be on your agenda. You may just already know 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you just want to lock the doors and go home. And that's perfectly fine. That's your exit strategy. But if you don't, there's lots of considerations that need to be taken when you prepare yourself. As you may know, if you listen to this show on a regular basis, I'm a big advocate of building an exit strategy, a very simple one piece of paper. I like that plan, one piece of paper that shows what you're going to do, answering those 3 basic questions. When do you project you're going to sell the business? To whom, meaning what kind of buyer or transfer to whom? And how much money do you want to walk away as a result of that exit? Start planning those issues way in advance, preferably when you plan to start the business. Have the answer to at least those 3 questions at hand. Now, you got 3 basic options when you leave the business. You can transition the business to your employees, to family members. One of the things with family members is you've got to have a strategy that over a period of time, you train those family members. Not only do you have to understand their interest, but you have to train them. You can't do that overnight. It takes time. And the more time you have, generally speaking, the better off you are. The more conversations, constructive conversations you have, the better off you are. Transitioning a business to key employees and other partners. That requires training as well. It requires time. It requires a lot of discussions, perhaps even a negotiation on price and so on and so forth. And the third way is just to sell it outright. And we've heard from some wonderful people so far. Michelle Schissler came in and talked to us. Michelle Schissler Tucker, came in and visited with us about marketing and selling your business and the ways to go about it to maximize the return on your investment. And we're going to have some more speakers, more conversations with people coming up in the next couple of months that will address those issues as well. So the key here is pick an avenue to follow that meets your time frame. If you want to be out of your business in 6 months, a year, 2 years, I think you've locked yourself in. It's going to be difficult to sell your business. Now, that doesn't mean you can't, but you're not going to potentially get the kind of return you would have gotten if you allowed more time. The economy plays a big role in what you get for your business and your ability to sell it. So the more time you have, you can spread those horizons out. You can pick and choose better the exact time that you put your business up for sale. Your time frame is very, very important. Now, I'm not even talking about emergencies that can happen, health issues, money issues, things that cause you to have to exit early. That is an entire different conversation. If possible, allow yourself that time to build your business up. That's my third and I think our most important point. Give yourself as much time as you can to reach the exit strategy you prefer to use. You know, a mentor, advisor, coach can help you realize your goals by guiding you on how to use your assets more effectively, not only in exits, but all aspects of your business. They can help you do more with what you have. Thank you again to Roger Goertz for joining us today. And I encourage you, put a note in your calendar for next week, 11 o'clock. We'll be here live on the Weekly Business Hour. And you look for the video podcast of today's show on the Weekly Business Hour page on irlonestar.com, onebestconsult.com, and Facebook and other social media sites. And until next week, my encouragement always, stay engaged and keep your focus on what's important to your business. Thank you.